Darkmage, live from Evil Dojo. And unfortunately, it's not the best stream news day. There was a very prolific death in the tech industry today. John McAfee, creator of the McAfee antivirus software, meme legend, and pioneer in a lot of spaces, is dead at the, see, how old was he? 75. Yep. 75 years old. Three-quarters of a century. And we have an intolerable situation here for a lot of reasons. But one primary factor in that feeling specifically is the fact that none of the places reporting this are giving us any details as to what exactly happened. Isn't that interesting? You see all over the news, but in the discussions, and this is already a meme across Twitter, is that our boy did not kill himself, even though this is what it's being reported. And isn't that suspicious? That, not to mention the manner by which he supposedly did so, is not made clear in any of these news reports. That's just a fact. So, let's see, can I pull a chatterino on top of this? Yeah, awesome. So, we're going to talk, just kind of examine this whole situation a bit. Try to understand more, think about the causes, think about who might have done it. It's kind of killing time before my trip tomorrow, honestly. I learned about this while I was actually getting my tire changed on my car. So it's kind of like everyone's probably glued to this direction right now, right? Like, you know, a lot of people in the same headspace are definitely heading in the same direction. And certainly in the tech world, more people are paying attention to this than people outside the tech world. So people outside the tech world are only going to catch the fact that he is dead. And the closer you are to the guy himself, that. I really wish I knew more about antiviruses and that sort of thing. I think binary reverse engineering is super interesting. I think the idea of creating my own malware and creating my own viruses is super interesting. I certainly have more than enough programmer skill to engineer such a project forward. That's fucking cool, Jira, dude. Like, he might have followed me in the past at one point. That's super cool. I had definitely owned stock in one of his previous companies back in like 2016, and I made some money off of McAfee. So like, this dude's definitely helped me move forward in a lot of ways. financially speaking, I think a lot of us invested in his. I think the name of the stock was like GME, not or something like GMT, MGT, something like that. And I think I got in on it at like 30 cents, and it skyrocketed to like $3, like a little bit over $3. And I sold out, and I made myself a little bit of money back then, and it was kind of nice to make a successful investment and see a return, and to kind of follow the wave in a lot of ways. I think all people who are writing software or writing or creating products or being involved in tech space in a lot of ways, even if you're just learning how to code, you're still kind of like following a pathway that's being traversed by large numbers of other people in a lot of ways. So it's cool to see how people get interconnected. Like, a friend of mine that I went to high school with, who went to MIT, interned at Apple and got to be in the same room as Steve Jobs, which technically makes me and Steve Jobs' bacon number technically too, right? Like, I'm 2 hops away from Steve Jobs. And since I'm connected to you, Jira, that means my bacon number for McAfee is 3, because it would be 3 hops from, or actually no, it would be 2 now, because now it's me, Jira, John McAfee. So John McAfee occupies the same number. Yeah, so that's a good way to think about it. If your bacon number is 2, in my case it'd be the Jobs number, because Jobs is 2 away from me, which would put Bill Gates at 3, unless I know anyone who's actually like met him, in which case Bill Gates would occupy the same space as Jobs in that case. I actually typically put Gates higher on the totem pole, only for one reason, and the fact that he wrote a compiler. I'm pretty sure that he wrote a basic compiler in the 80s, and I've always valued people who understand the technical proficiencies involved in creating all of the fundamental tools necessary to iterate the space forward to where we are today. There's like certain primitives, right? Like, it's like discovering fire. Like, certain people did these things, and McAfee was certainly one of them. Rest in peace. He didn't kill himself. Let's get into that. One thing to notice too is that they ubiquitously across the board, no details about his death. They just say that he killed himself. Just like anywhere that you look, that's going to be the case. Not to mention, if you start to go back through his previous tweets, damn, I lost the fucking Chatterino. I thought I fucking put that on all tops. There we go. Today, a man facing a difficult situation asked if I knew of painless ways to kill myself. Himself, in this case. Having little experience in such, I was of not much help. The amazing thing is that the tone of this discussion was like discussing the weather. Prison is a strange environment. It certainly is. While I've never been to prison myself, I have been to jail, and jail was certainly interesting enough that I could imagine what prison is like. Some of the conversations that I had in jail that were most interesting, include Rick and Morty. Like, running into a fellow Rick and Morty fan in jail was fucking awesome. That made shit just feel like a little bit closer to home in a lot of ways, and it's kind of retarded like that, right? But being able to just like go back and forth and shoot the shit on memes, like in an environment where shit otherwise fucking sucks, like people are always like looking for ways to like make it easier, and that's what honestly I feel like technology is all about. It's like everything that we all do, like if you're not building something for the future by building something that everyone can use, then perhaps you're teaching someone who does not yet know what they're going to build, but like, even if I didn't know what to build, I at least know that I can confer my skills to another person. And that transfer of knowledge and that sharing of information. And yeah, certainly in certain cases you might need to be compensated because of your situation or whatever, but ideally, in time, doing so in such a way that like you ultimately lower the cost or the burden of providing the knowledge or the thing over time. This is why like it kind of sucks, because it's like usually when you offer something for free, you have to support it somehow, and that requires ad revenue or something like that, right? But and I don't know if McAfee is entirely free, but I know like with most software in general, you can like, even if it's not like free and open source software, you can get a free trial. But you know, in the ideal world, you don't have a reason to get a virus scanner. But like, it's also a question of like, what do people do about this? Because like Windows, for instance, nowadays offers Defender. So I even in a professional information security environment, the guy who hired me, who later went on to work at Mandiant FireEye, even suggested back then, and I straight up asked him just casually, what antivirus software do you recommend? Dude's like, none. Windows 10 has Defender built in, and it's pretty much good enough. And I think the approach there is to like minimize the amount of extra shit that you have installed, because like if Windows is packaging its own antivirus nowadays, it's like, how do you compete against that? McAfee's software was created in an era well before Defender's existence. And not to mention, other operating systems don't have antiviruses, right? Like, the concept of a virus and of malware and of protecting your computer and stuff is a very tricky notion, because in the end, like, what you're ultimately trying to do is prevent the user from doing something really stupid or from something happening to them that they totally did not like intend. Like for instance, maybe they're playing a game or running a piece of software that somehow opens up ports that they're unaware of. And you know, ideally you're aware of these things, but like, you know, most people who are using a computer use it in the same way that people drive a car, and most people don't know the ins and outs of their own vehicle, let alone their own computer. And I think this is a really solid point to make, just on the virtue of, how do you say, like, intimate knowledge with a thing can make you better at using the thing. And you know, I don't think people even have like an intimate virus of like what a virus is. Intimate knowledge of what a virus is, and or even of like how to protect themselves against this kind of stuff. In the worst case, like, you know, every boomer that I've dealt with as in the technology sector just abuses the shit out of their machines to the point where they're operating inefficiently, and it ends up creating a slowdown over time with what they're able to accomplish. I think I'm rambling at this point, but let's see other reasons why McAfee didn't kill himself. What was the date on this? November 30th, 2019. He reports getting subtle messages from U.S. officials saying, in effect, "We're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself." I got a tattoo today just in case. How convenient that he already saw this coming this long ago and was able to do this sort of thing. Now, the people arguing against this, I think, are attempting to read a little bit too deeply into it, and I don't think that there's much that can be gained from playing devil's advocate in this case. Let's assume he wasn't whacked. Let's assume that he did. If that were the case, why aren't they reporting on the means by which he actually did so? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's a fair argument. What the hell is this? Have you ever considered releasing those files with an encryption and a failsafe key to spread if anything happens? Already done. So we're wondering where that material is. WikiLeaks already reported on this. Let's see if this tweet's been updated. Let's see. So this may have been a faked tweet, but it could have been also deleted. Ah, here we are. Files on corruption in governments. For the first time, this might have to do with why he was anheroed. For the first time, I'm naming names and specifics. I'll begin with a corrupt CIA agent and 2 Bahamian officials. Coming today, if I arrested or disappear, 31 plus terabytes of incriminating data will be released to the press. It'd be interesting to go back through his old tweets. Now, this is also a big concern. Not long after reading reports about his being suicided, I checked his Instagram, and this was off of a tip off of a comment in Twitter. Taking a look at his Twitter homepage, there is a post that just is Q. What the hell is going on, right? Isn't this some crazy shit? What the hell is literally going on? I don't buy into the whole Q thing, but this definitely creates a lot of questions as to what exactly is happening. But it also, like, even before Q existed, the deep state was like a big concern, right? Like, the Q meme, I feel like, is something that's created to garner like people who just have like way too much energy and attention, and is like kind of like literally a form of controlled opposition, or like trying to mislead people who are literally hunting for answers to why their situation is the way that it is. Is it Q for questions? Is the people who got them definitely somehow end up arriving at this doorstep, and it's a doorstep that I straight up avoid. So whenever it's being forced in my face like this, it's definitely of massive concern. I think it's interesting of note is that today is Alan Turing's birthday. So they killed fucking this guy 109 years after one of the founding fathers of computer science was born. They actually just put Turing on that's funny as fuck. The fucked up part is I got Alan Turing jokes for a while. Like I got anal Turing jokes for days, because as everyone knows, Alan Turing was gay, and thus all computers are gay, and this is just, you know, a bunch of homosexual technology, or whatever. um, no, dude, like Alan Turing was like straight up retarded for oh snap, I gotta follow and I don't have my my alert box up. No, no, on the real, in that movie, The Imitation Game, they had him paired up with a very fine lady, and like, you know, if I were Alan Turing in that situation, I think I would become ungay very fast. There's nothing hotter than a chick that can do math. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's definitely an attractive appeal. That's why I sat next to them in math class, because I was a smart guy, and I, in a just senior year of high school situation, found that, like, you know, there were more girls in my class than there were dudes, and I kind of got the idea back then that, like, well, maybe it's because girls are better at math than guys, but at the same time, I was also in calculus as a senior. No pun intended, right? So, I find the synchronicity odd, and one thing that I pay attention to when I'm trying to unravel these things, right? And whenever I'm paying attention to patterns, you know, this is just like my inner conspiracy theorist analyst coming out here. So I look for synchronicity, and the fact that, like as an example, and at some point I want to do a thing on mapping the music industry that released all of these different hits on 9/11/2001 with the collapse of the World Trade Center at the same time, traditionally known in the media as the event called 9/11. That was a synchronistic moment, and people didn't realize it at the time, but, you know, I took a look at that situation later, like as in 12 years after it happened, because I was like a teenager when it did, and I didn't have like good enough internet or enough of like a give a fuck back then to like really dig deeper, because I was kind of hard left back then, and I kind of like as a kid when it happened, just, I don't know if I was like seeking attention or what, but I took the position that, like, you know, America was a very arrogant and haughty nation, and I thought that, you know, well, fuck, I mean, everyone's acting like we're so great, and then this happens, and it's like, oh my god, solidarity, and it's like, where was that solidarity before 9/11? Y'all are fucking fake. This is just like something you're putting on for show. And it's like, the people who have that attitude, or had that attitude back then, who were being real, are like still like that today. And you're gonna find that, like, most people who put up, like, you know, fucking truck flags and shit, that and the fucking bumper stickers or whatever, the majority of those people took that shit down eventually. The people who kept that shit up are the ones who are actually real about it. It's, you know, like, people transform themselves to, like, kind of like go with the flow, and to, like, you know, make it like what do they call it now, virtue signaling. People do that shit, and I noticed that shit even as a teenager. And so it was like, you know, I really did not feel like a lot of people's displays were authentic or genuine, and, you know, like, you know, and so, you know, that's a deeper topic too, but, like, you know, the synchronicity thing is real. Like 25 something albums came out on 9/11/2001, some of which had titles that kind of like indicated that something kind of suspicious was going on there. As an example, I like this one. Slayer's God Hates Us All came out the same day that the Twin Towers collapsed. A lot of people don't know that. Well, you would think, why would that matter? And is that not just a coincidence? Well, a coincidence can happen once, but then another album came out that same day. Dream Theater's Scenes from New York City, and the album cover is the Twin Towers in flames. And you might think, that's also a convenient coincidence. Mariah Carey's Glitter also came out that same day. Jay-Z's The Blueprint also came out that same day. I'm just going off of memory here. That's how deeply I dug into that stuff back then. I know that topic well enough to know that there is a procedure and a process and an algorithm that can be developed quite simply in public and plain view, where an individual maps the connections using public resources completely available out on the open internet to map every single album and artist that created a product and released it on that day with Larry Silverstein, who is one of the major proprietors and owners of the World Trade Centers, who completely disappeared that day, along with something like $3 billion or $1 trillion from, I mean, I know billion and trillion's a matter of 1,000 fucking, magnitude, but, it's still within range. Even if my error's off. Fuck ton of money disappears from the Pentagon around that time. How do people explain for the World Trade Center, Building 7 mean, right? I've never lived in New York, and I never saw the Twin Towers the time that I drove through the state. But I know how to ask questions, and, the big thing back then, especially too, and actually is still probably something that is a very simulatable thing now, is the whole thing about jet fuel melting steel beams. I don't know which way to honestly feel about that, because I've gotten so many different mixed opinions. It is Aztec. It's right next to me and it's very loud. I do apologize. One day in the near future, yeah, it is loud, right? One day in the future, I would like to relocate to a location where I have central air. That's certainly a goal. Getting into this spot was a matter of getting out of a go-between spot that was interim after having left a previously very bad spot. So we're working with what we got here. We're doing our best, and in time I'd like to grow. Almost, just about. You might consider it that, but not technically speaking. It was actually a meth couch. You could call it that, really. That's honestly what it was. Not that I was doing any sort of meth, but thankfully I didn't have to eat any anime posters, man. I actually still have all of mine. I've never, for all the things that I have sold and had to get rid of in life, I'm very thankful that I've never gotten rid of a single poster that I've ever had, and I still have all of them. The situation I was in, I was tutoring at a Starbucks. I would get up in the morning and drink instant coffee and stretch and actually go to a gas station or a McDonald's or something to grab some super cheap dollar menu food, and then head over to a Starbucks and stay over there for a couple hours tutoring and try to make a few bucks just so that I can improve my situation. Eventually I caught a break, and then I got lucky and did a few weeks of work with a law firm out in California. Managed to make enough money to basically relocate, in the event that I was given the opportunity. I was actually in the middle of a bad court situation, and my court had been delayed by a month due to the full, fucking pandemic. So I ended up bouncing so that I could serve out the rest of a probation virtually over the internet. And it was kind of nice being able to do that, because it was a lot more comfy than the situation that I was in, and I was able to like focus on really improving my life rather than like all the bad shit that was like surrounding me at that time. Which I'm actually about to drive back over to Florida to shut down my storage unit, and mentally I'm still thinking about like all of the stuff that I've been through, and I'm trying to get past that too. And I like a lot of that is going to be it's going to be on the way on the back burner by me shutting down this unit. So you ever see that one episode of South Park where Stan is like getting hounded about his messy locker, and he's got all of these, like, not him, but actually it comes to find that like Counselor Mackey got molested when he was a kid, and his memories of this were being manifest by him hoarding in order to like block out that trauma. And in a lot of ways I feel like that's probably something that's going on with me too. And I've been thinking about this storage unit and shutting it down for a long time, and one reason I haven't is I had not yet really had the free time to take 2 days to drive over there and really take care of it, because I had a lot of different things preventing me from even making the decision in the first place. Got a lot of things from my past. As an example, I have a multi-$100 leather trench coat that looks like the trench coat that Morpheus wore in The Matrix. It's a very nice thing that I've had since I was 18. So I've been carrying it around for almost 18 years now. My PlayStation 4, I believe, is in there. A medical marijuana vaporizer that I purchased in Houston called the PAX 2 is in there. That's just off the top. There's a bunch of other stuff. It's like a bunch of assorted random stuff that was originally in my grandmother's garage. Oh, well, that's a question that, I've been asked, and I need to not pay to store these things because I have the space to now, is really the thing. And having the things available to me would mean at the very least I could sell them and make some profit off of them, and perhaps get back some of the money that I spent storing them in the first place. And so it is not a matter of need, but it is a matter of financial efficiency at this point for me. Taking the time to actually get it off my chest is going to be very mentally liberating. Not having to deal with it anymore, not having to think about it, and not having to think like I failed, or that like I didn't win, or that I'm not like the victor in the situation, because I was already put in a situation where I felt the need to get the storage unit in the first place. It's not really new, because I've been here for like a year now. Not to mention, it's very hot right now. Like, temperatures in Texas are very warm, and it's basically a matter of I don't really want to get up and move around through the rooms. Not to mention, when I'm streaming, I'm actually doing so over I'm physically wired in. I haven't actually tested streaming over wireless yet. So, synchronicity, right? There's connections between John McAfee and a lot of different institutions and organizations. Someone chose to do this on this day, or they did it the day before, and they made it like reported on Oh yeah, you're Mr. Fancy Pants, huh? I've never actually tried to stream over LTE like that. Back when I was on the island, that would be the only time that I would have really wanted to do so. But the island is so fucking back fucking words in everything. Like for instance, the fastest internet that Comcast over there even offers is like 150 megabits per second down. Um, I lived on an island. Yeah, I don't know if it was Anime Island, but it was an island nonetheless. Not much of an island, but an island. Has palm trees. Uh, I went to an anime convention there, and it was a very small one, but it was like nice to see that there was a anime community there. I know that's not what you're talking about, but shoutouts to Meep Sheep wherever he is. Miss that guy. Like he talked to me about like running a medical marijuana or just a marijuana farm up there, and I'm still down to do it. Actually, that'd be a really dope transition and way for me to get up there in the first place. Yeah, so McAfee tweeted a while ago this thing. Um, I am content in here. I have friends. The food is good. All is well. Know that if I hang myself a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine. So this is yet another piece of evidence contributing towards the John McAfee did not kill himself theory. Um, I'm sure that burns a lot of data, Jira. Like one nice thing about Ting, which if you're looking at my affiliates right there, nice. I actually caught it just as it's flying over. Shout outs to Ting for being my provider for the last couple of years. My bill with them is like $20 a month because I virtually never use my data at all, right? And I think that's sweet because back when I started doing iOS development, I didn't know shit about cell phones, dude. Like I thought I had to go with AT&T, an ad read for like Ting. Um, how do I do an ad read? Like fucking buy Ting, damn it. They're good shit. They cover my shit. That's just on the fly. I'm sure I could come up with a better quip. I got on Ting because of Joe Rogan, actually, and Joe Rogan's now fucking top of Spotify, and he's not even music. Like, all he had to do was move from YouTube to Spotify. Like, I don't even get like Joe Rogan clips anymore. That sucks. I hate Spotify so much. They're such a fucking garbage UI. The only good thing I can say about Spotify is that they have a good API and I can access shit in the background. HTML and CSS are not that bad. If you've seen the shit that people can do with CSS, like on its own, like with animations and shit, it's actually really impressive. I have a lot of respect for people who can hack out like decent looking UIs. I'm super ghetto and minimal. That's why I do stuff old school. Like there is a method to my madness and a reason to why I operate the way that I do. But what I find personally disgusting is React.js and Angular.js. You know it's a disaster. These chats. But you know what else is a disaster? Not chatting like this. Let's see. So yeah, 109 is also a prime number. It's a prime number year away from fucking when Alan Turing was born. Alan Turing would be 109 years old today. Not only did they kill him on Alan Turing's birthday, but they did so a prime number of years away from his birth. Is this a coincidence? Uh-huh. The number of times that you start to aggregate these critical facts about the current state of reality or the state of the system in which it currently sits contributes towards a critical number that may vary from case to case, depending on whatever it is that you're trying to prove. In this case, it's still too early to really say who done it. It takes a lot more thinking and a lot more reasoning and a lot more examining. But in the same fashion that Epstein was fucking Ann Herod, maybe the same people did the same thing. And if there's any connection between those two, it's definitely through the government, right? Perhaps McAfee was a customer. He did say that he had info that he was going to dead man switch to WikiLeaks. I hope that dead man switch has gone off. So, what happened to McAfee's, McAfee software? This is a piece of software that I know I frequently find on my grandparents' computers. So Intel maintains a 49% stake in the company. I'm not sure that anyone would actually benefit financially from offing him. He was in prison, right? I think he'd been there for a while. He was accused of killing someone, right? And I think they also wanted him for tax evasion and some other stuff. I don't think any one person has that level of media manipulation ability. Not to mention why now? Yeah, so he was obviously on the run, right? And so he got caught, and they wanted to extradite him to the United States. So really, whoever, regardless of what he was on the run from in other countries, the United States was going to be getting possession of him. Think about that one for a second, right? I hope Epstein is, getting what he deserves. I don't think McAfee deserved what he got. Consider that McAfee as a software has all of these competitors, right? It's not the only antivirus game in town. Obviously, it would be really retarded to think that, someone killed him that belonged to any one of these groups. The antivirus and security game is largely a subscription game, getting people on the ropes to pay so many dollars a month to maintain a particular service. define pump and dump in the context of a stock. I understand it with respect to cryptocurrency, right? Like, but it's always curious about how the pump happens in the first place, like the inception point for like the rise in a stock price, right? It's like how do you say? Yeah, well, of course it's social, but I mean like defining the clear, like for instance, if it were like through Twitter, defining like the incepting tweet that would cause a stock to rise. This is actually an algorithm that I've thought about in the context of like crypto and stock analysis, where you can certainly tie like a public event or something that happens at a certain point in time with a price of something going up or down. Like, it's not hard to think of a metric that like measures, for instance, if you have like the price of a stock going up and down over time, right? You can go through those moment to moment, even like go through like each second to second or like minute to minute slice of that data, right? And correlate that with a particular event that occurs somewhere on that timeline. Right, exactly. Like that's what I call it, the incepting point, or like the beginning event that triggers a price movement. And while everyone in the media is tripping balls about like crypto going up or down every single fucking day, and it makes me so sick that I want to get on the internet and start rambling like this, just because it's like these people are so dumb. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, you gotta play the long game. Crypto is still above, like Bitcoin alone, is still sitting above where it was at the end of 2019, right? Like, if you got in before that shit, you're still fucking rich. Like, the people who are getting in so late are only doing so because they're following the fucking herd. They're following, like, the news. Like, I literally read the Bitcoin white paper in 2009. Maybe we'll do that together on stream sometime. Define it in the context of, like, stocks. So, like, in the context of cryptocurrency, like, a pump and dump would be, like, people push up the price of a cryptocurrency artificially. And so that's the interest here, is the manner of artifice, the manner of which a mechanism is used to trigger the price movement. And so the metric, if it's about like, yeah, you get other people to buy it, hyping it, right, but like the question is, how do you get people to do anything? Because getting people to do things is hard. And if I knew how to do that, then I would make people do things. It's really more like, at least for me anyway, it's been like push people in certain directions. If I believe in a product genuinely, right, is that not a form of pumping something? Oh, that's fun. Okay, see, that's specific. I like that. Being able to pinpoint it to something like that. So it'd be like if he wrote the virus himself. He's like, guys, you're gonna get computer aids. Buy my product. That'd be pretty cool. It's kind of like gonzo journalism. Like, it's like how Hunter S. Thompson ran for mayor of that small Colorado town, and he lost. But he ran under the Freak Party label. Shoutouts to the Freak Party. Gotta get my double. Dude, that should be a good tattoo I get, is a double-fisted thumb. And I should get that like right on the for my wrist. I want to get this sleeve tatted up. Y'all gotta help me fund getting a fuck ton of tattoos, because this shit's expensive. I can't believe that my sister afforded her own sleeves. Shout outs to my sis. Just like ridiculous amounts of money for body art, and I'm 35 and I got no tats, but I at least got my gauges, which I did myself now. But a stick and poke. I don't know what a stick and poke is, Aztec. So, let's see. Controversies. Accounting fraud. Ooh. Maybe later. So, yeah, price of Bitcoin, like, people trip balls about, like, where it's at, like, every single day. Oh, nice. Not sure I would want to get one of those. Definitely would want some clean, although it's not to say that you couldn't have a clean prison tat. So price movement for the last month. We're sitting at a relative low, but keep going back though, and you start to get more confidence that the price isn't really going anywhere other than just being pushed and then settling back down. Ultimately there's going to be like an average over time where Bitcoin finally gets down to, that's going to be like really hard stable for a while. And there's a lot of reasons that could be affecting the price movement, but over time the overall upward trend that has been going is entirely due to interest in it just becoming a lot more aware. Like, more people know about it now, especially because of dudes tweeting and because of people and companies being essentially forced to report on it without anyone really understanding the technology that deeply. Probably a handful of people do, and even then I can't claim to be like blockchain expert. I certainly have a lot more to do in terms of understanding exactly how it's implemented, but the gist is there. People are able to talk about it if they understand the outer workings without understanding the hood. It's kind of like, again, talking about cars. People who understand cars more intimately are going to be the people who have actually worked on them, who have actually changed tires, who have changed oil, who have, remounted engines, who have flushed, radiators, who have done all of the different kinds of things that you can do to a car and are necessary in order to maintain the longevity of the product. And, that's what I'm talking about with computers, is that most people don't do that, and they treat their computers like shit. And a lot of it is about philosophy and attitude of life, and most people who sit down and use a computer just don't have the level of respect for it. And I think respect for things is something that should be cultivated over time. So, yeah, it's always a question of who's actually moving it, but like at this point we have like institutional investors, and so it's really hard to say what's happening at the top levels. There's a lot of stuff that definitely occurs outside of the space of the public info sphere that would definitely impact the price, right? And so we have these invisible, unknown events that are affecting the upward price movement as well as the downward. Um, Sometimes you get lucky and you find like a public event that would affect the movement and could be very easily explained, such as like recently the Chinese government banning cryptocurrency mining or something like that. And actually the price of GPUs is dropping, so it's also a good time to get back in on mining if you have the money to afford a miner. I'm actually mining some Monero on a VPS right now, and it's not a totally unreasonable yield. And one thing that's kind of interesting about doing this is that, you know, coin that you get by mining isn't coin that has passed through a an exchange. And so, like for instance, if you wanted the ultimate security in like buying drugs on the internet, you should totally like mine Monero and then never move it into an exchange, and then just directly deposit it into your darknet market of choice, because you effectively circumvent all of the regulation hassles and exposures to like revealing your identity. And so you actually have like extra security by doing this, especially if you mine it off of like a local machine that like you purchased in cash from like a Walmart where like you were hooded and like, you know, your car wasn't on camera, and you know, it's like every single additional layer, right, is like a gap of like information distance that you're creating between you and another event, right? Like, you can almost think of this as like 5-dimensional navigation in a way, because like if we exist or appear to exist in a 3D universe, then moving through time is 4-dimensional, right? So 5th dimension is like possibility, like all of the different timelines that could occur. So you could kind of think like traversing that space as navigating from like an event to an event. And so the question would be like, you know, given enough social clout, how could one push or force the Bitcoin price in one direction? Now, actually, one thing to consider too is that you would actually, in this situation, and probably already is like this, you'll have colliding forces where you have like one group of investors competing against another in order to try and drive the price up or down in one direction. But then because it's like, you could think of like two vectors pushing against each other, and like in certain cases they'll neutralize each other out, but if one of them is carrying a lot more weight than the other, then they're going to end up pushing the other in the other direction, but ultimately being marred by the level of effort the other investor puts in. So, you know, in the end, you want to develop the weight to make that movement, and movement and weight are, you know, very closely tied to momentum, right? So having all of the different possibilities and potential before oneself, and all of the options, right? All of these different pathways that one can traverse, you find yourself in a much higher order space, thinking about which direction do I actually go in, but knowing for sure that there's one pathway that you have to take before any of those options can reveal themselves, before it can be known or even understood exactly what it is to do next, until you do this one thing. And that's the position that I'm in right now. Got to do this one thing. Then we have all of these different things that we can do. So I'll be offline for a couple days, but I'll try to be reporting in from Twitter whenever I take a break. Like, I'm going to be stopping on the road like once every few hours. Well, so the next thing is I'm traveling to Florida to shut down my storage unit, so I can stop paying an exorbitant amount of money every month, and then potentially, you know, recover, you know, things that are ultimately sentimental, but can also be financially viable. in the long haul. Like, for instance, my PlayStation 4 has a fuck ton of games on it, and I could be streaming a lot of those games. I actually need a better streaming solution because since I migrated to Linux, I haven't been able to use the Elgato anymore. So I need a new hardware device to connect to my Switch in order to do that. But the same device would work on the PS4 too. And actually the PS4, well, no, let me take that back. Yes, it can. Same device can be used on the PS4. But in the end, after that, I'm in the process of trying to get my first Skillshare class up and running, but I keep having to go back and forth with one of the content moderators on upgrading the quality of my presentation. I did as they asked by removing affiliate links, and that apparently wasn't enough. Now I have to also inject some more visuals, as they describe, in both the introductory video and the requirements video and the conclusion video. At the very least, they say that I can get away with having like a shot of me talking like this for the intro and the conclusion. But I'm not sure what to do for the requirements video. I think at the least I'll probably have like slides that I'll use. Making slides is easy enough and actually makes for like making videos easier. One thing that's kind of challenging as someone who wants to create content is coming up with an easy enough workflow that it can create like high enough quality presentations without sacrificing like I don't want to sacrifice energy that I'm putting into a thing, but I definitely don't want to like create hand motions that are like I don't want to go too far out of my way, if that makes sense. I want to make this a smooth process. I want to be able to put a lot of energy into a thing without feeling a sense of burden on the process itself. This is one reason I don't use IDEs. I feel a lot more comfortable building code from the command line or running it from the command line because it's far more familiar to just type a command in. Not the learning curve. It's more about having to learn anything new. Having to, you could say, it's like people used to complain about Beatmania 2DX having a steep difficulty curve or a steep learning curve. I'm not sure what people were talking about back then, honestly. I sat down and picked it up rather fast. In a short order, I became one of the top 50 players in the United States on BJ Army, even though I have a right arm disability. So I've never really accepted a learning curve like that. It's more like way of doing things preference. Yeah, I try not to, but that's also a difficult thing. The brain itself is a comparison engine and has difficulty not looking for patterns. When patterns don't present themselves, or rather when anomalies do, and I shouldn't say anomaly, that's kind of a neg word, right? Like, I like the word black swan of it, because that kind of, it describes volatility or like extreme chaos, but at the same time, I feel like in a person's life, you can engineer order. At least I've felt like I've been able to do so. My IRC origin story, oh, that's a fun one. I actually came to IRC because of OkCupid. I may have dabbled in IRC before that, but ultimately a girl got me onto my first major server, which is no longer up, or at least last time I checked, they weren't there, which was Lyceum, or yeah, I think it's pronounced Lyceum. Um, no shit, indeed. Well, you may if you were ever onto Lyceum, I went by a different name on that network. I actually went by Sensei, as in Japanese teacher Sensei. Because even back then, people kind of respected me and understood that I was not only someone who knew a lot about computer science, but also cannabis, sativa, and indica. I actually know a lot about marijuana. For a lot of reasons. I actually read the Cannabis Grow Bible while I was in college out of pure interest, because I developed a very great fascination with growing plants in general, and honestly just having a lot of respect for life in general. Learning about all the different things from like the different light waves that you want to use on a plant at different like times in its grow cycles. Like when it's first maturing, and then when it's in vegetative phase, and then when it's in flowering phase. You actually want to use different lights during those times, depending on what kind of plant it is. And it gets into like the differences between like high pressured sodium lights and carbon fluorescent lights, and actually even down to the actual wavelength level, which can be measured in terms of nano shits. I forgot about. I've never grown that myself, and I've unfortunately only ever participated in other people's gardens. But outside of cannabis, some fun things to grow include some Thai chili peppers, some Thai basil. Let's see. Cherry tomatoes are always a fun one. I actually really enjoy growing tomatoes. Some of the best cherry tomatoes I ever had came from my grandmother's tomato orchard, which was going very well until her drunk shithead of a son, who is otherwise known as my uncle, in a drunken rage knocked it over and basically destroyed it. There's a lot of peace to growing things. Actually, even outside of like food to grow, bonsai trees. I like those, and I actually have not had one in a while. And my current apartment is kind of dog shit for like growing things. No, but I have had friends do that, and so I'm familiar with the process. I just remember perlite and having like a very sterile container. And I've read this on Arrowhead at least once before. Arrowhead's a fun site we could always go over and browse to. I'd be very curious to know what the state of that stuff is. Yeah, Lyceum was a competitor, I think, to Arrowhead. Maybe not a competitor, but at least a different community. One of the people who kicked me out, who is an admin, and they may or may not be on my LinkedIn still, but they were also an admin at Shroomery at the time of when a famous person by the name of Ripper did their famous OD on camera and jettisoned from this mortal coil, for better or worse. I don't really know much about Shroomery, but that event I actually learned about because of Encyclopedia Dramatica, long before I actually got on that server. What the fucks. Shoutouts to anyone from those OG chans who ever catches my streams or watches my shit. I do not, but I am also surprised, but not surprised. I feel like at the same time as not being surprised, I should maintain that the times that I thought that I should have an ED page, I was probably on a bit of an ego trip, thinking that like I'm important or anything like that. Um, if anything, the main reason that I would want to catalog is more like for all the shit that I've kind of done and not done or seen in my life. A lot of it I haven't even told anyone about yet. And there's a lot to document. There's a lot to document. There's a lot to talk about. Stuff that I've seen as long ago as... what's the oldest crazy shits that I've seen? I mean, honestly, I want to say like maybe 2014-ish. 20-something, somewhere around there. Somewhere around the time that I first got like hit up by like Google, and then I ended up like working for an iOS development firm, or doing in-house apps for different corporations. That was a fun workplace, and I learned a lot about the real world and how stuff gets done. But at the same time, it was also crazy to see how close to the center of things I was from that perspective. At the same time, though, when you're that close to things, you can be blind to what's going on around you if you're not paying attention. And I was very thoroughly distracted at that time by inter-family problems. Exactly, this is what I'm getting into, Aztec. That's exactly what the story is about. How did I get onto EFNet? Well, during this period of inter-family drama, while I was working for an iOS development company, long story short, I migrated from What the Fucks over to EFNet somehow. I think I followed Load over there. I originally came to IRC because of a girl, and I got banned because of a girl, a different one entirely, but I got banned while defending someone else who got banned, and that person was Weave. I followed Weave into What the Fucks because I thought he was a very smart person, and I had already learned a lot from him. Not to mention, everyone was very serious and talking about like how awful of a person he was, and I don't know the guy that well. I felt like he was good people because, especially years later, after standing up for him, he actually helped me out in a bit of a bind. So I can definitely say he has a good person inside of him at the very least. I don't think that you help people out completely without material gain to be had from it, because EFNet and piracy. I don't know what about piracy you're talking about there, Killface, but so I followed Weave over to What the Fucks, and then from there I followed Load over to EFNet, and that's how I got to LRH. Yeah, I know what wares are. I'm not saying that, but like, first of all, I'm well aware that EFNet is a very old server network, right? And I'm certainly old enough to be in that category, but I wasn't West Coast enough to be like as up on current computer shit as like a lot of people who grew up in the Cali area. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I didn't get onto IRC until like freaking 2009. Like, that was when I first started seriously using IRC, was 2009. West Coast enough. Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's certainly, like, as you migrate west, people who were, like, really up on things were the people who had, like, Mac machines before other people do. Right, like, Silicon Valley-ish types who were, like, already trying to be in the area. Like, for instance, if you were like fucking Matthew Broderick in War Games, where like you had a computer with an internet connection in like the 80s, you're fucking up on shit. Like we didn't even get dial-up until I was 10 years old, and I say didn't even, but like that's about average for I think people in my age range. You know, most of the kids that I grew up with dial-up like America Online, whereas people who really ahead of the game had access to like cable and fiber and shit, like, you know, eons before any of us did. You say elitist, I guess, but like at the same time, it's like everyone has a different level of expectation. The guy who taught me Gentoo was very convinced that like 10 megabit upload speed was like something that should be mandatory for like any like residential internet connection. So you say that, but like he was a physicist, and the kind of work that he did involved data sets large enough that he needed to be able to push that bandwidth back in 10 years ago even. Because he worked for a university and they had access to that stuff, and so his like technological bottom floor was already so much higher than everyone else's fucking ceiling. So if you could like put into quantitative terms the difference in like not only like I wouldn't say ability, but like with opportunity can certainly come ability, right? Like if you have access to the materials, you can get that good at anything. If you spend enough time with it. One of the dudes who gave me recommendation for my first apartments in Jacksonville, working at that place. What did I say about him? He started doing like Mac shit when he was like 10 years old because his family was like all Apple. When I felt like I wasn't being West Coast enough. No, talking about like after I got internet in the first place, or so I got onto EFNet largely as a distraction from my own familial issues. Apparently issues that no matter how hard I try, I cannot make anyone see my way of doing things. So in the end, it was a fun ride, but I dipped out of there, recognizing the toxicity of the environment, and also having become a bit of a legendary icon on the network myself, a bit inadvertently. Some things happen outside of our control, but in the end, I've been trying to document things that I've seen. Oh, dude. Well, like this chick was OG. Like for one, she was older than me by a couple of years, and super cool person. Like really good human. I can always hit her up and know that I have a friend. And also amazing artist too. Super artsy, amazing drawer. I thought I was good at drawing. She puts my shit to shame, like every single time. So she was part of it. Like that's what I'm saying. The network that she got me onto was like super low key, and in that network, I ran into Weave, as well as another famous hacker who is no longer alive by the name of Sind, who is otherwise Dennis Moran. He was in the same circles. There's actually a photo of a collage from 2013 somewhere out on the internet. And if I'm lucky, it's still something I can like Google for. Let's see. But let's see. I wonder if this person still has their, yeah, she still has her site up. I wonder if it's been cached in Google. There we are. Oh shit, I found it. Oh, I found something anyway. Check this out. So, shoutouts to my friend Send, who's no longer alive. He used to chat with me on IRC a lot, and he gave me a lot of positive words. I wish I still had our logs of our chats involving what I'm able to do and what I could do, that sort of thing, and the kind of direction that I should head in. Send hacked the dare.com website and put this up on it in the 90s, well before anything about hacking was remotely cool. Like this, like I saw the movie Hackers, like probably around the time he did this shit. I was a little kid and he was a little bit older than me, but he had already done his prison time, you know, and he didn't just do this, he also fucking hacked RSA security. And he did this in a time when the internet was so insecure and so fucking easy to break shit. Like, me coming into it at this late in the game, I'm fucking dumb as fuck. But, you know, it's more been about, like, interest and curiosity and, like, what's fun and what's interesting and what's novel and new. And talking with him and learning about this stuff and hanging out on this server, I learned a lot. I learned a metric fuck ton. You know, at some point there's going to be a book, I think, about all of these things, because I chatted with this dude for a long time. Not just him, but like others who also are not here anymore and who gave me a lot of personal inspiration. Let's see. Dare to get really fucking baked out of your gourd. Drugs are really excellent. Reagan lost the war on drugs. End it now. Coolio is K-Rad, and so are drugs. And I think K-Rad is I think that was a thing that was associated with Jinko, right? I don't know the full gist of it, but so. Yeah, this is him. Oh, you can't see him. Hold on. Like the Tally t-shirt. You know, a lot of interesting things happen in the Berkeley area. After having so much attention drawn to him and De La Garza's account of Moran being responsible for defacing RSA's website, the FBI investigated Moran's connections to other website defacements. Eventually, they passed this as evidence to the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, and Moran was charged as an adult with 7 counts of Class A felony unauthorized access of a computer. 1 year later, on March 9th, 2001, he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of misdemeanor unauthorized access and was sentenced to 12 months in jail, with 3 months suspended, as well as ordered to pay $15,000 in restitution. Oh man, that's intense. He also he dropped a DDoS that hit eBay, Amazon, E-Trade, Buy.com. He also hit the U.S. Army and the Air Force. It's reported that he died of an overdose in 2013. But as something that's kind of interesting, not Barnaby Jones, Barnaby Jack. Barnaby Jack was due to give a presentation at DEF CON in 2013. As you can see, he died in 2013. Him and Sind were due to give a conference on hacking heart implants. Jack was known for jacking ATMs, literally. Among his other notable works were the exploitation of medical devices, including pacemakers and insulin pumps. I do not believe that either of these gentlemen legitimately died of self-inflicted overdoses. According to the coroner's report, Jack died of an overdose of heroin, cocaine, Benadryl, and Xanax. He was 35, which is exactly how old I am. At the time of his death, he was due to attend a Black Hat conference in Vegas. They actually noted that he was attending Black Hat, but not DEF CON. But most people who present usually end up doing both once you get on that circuit. I thought it'd be really cool to figure out like what my own hacker niche is, right? And like start presenting at conferences. And I feel like I'm onto something, but it's going to be something that takes a bit more time to develop. And it's honestly fucking dumb easy, and I'm surprised that like more people haven't like taken the avenue of approach that I'm taking, because I'm starting to rise in the ranks on these bug bounty platforms. And pardon me digging into my ear on cam, but shit's fucking itchy. Give myself a good old ear fucking. Barnaby's jackpotting technique of an ATM and multiple ATMs being hacked and forced to spit out any amount of cash triggered by a number of events all described in his Black Hat presentation was used in CSI Cyber. That's fucked up. Right, well, I'm having fun doing it. It's kind of interesting, but it's also the kind of thing that can be easily automated and mostly just like like what I end up doing is I sift through results, looking for patterns that match what I'm trying to do, or what I'm essentially looking for, and it makes it easy because I don't have to think a whole lot about what I'm looking for. I mostly just I turn on my TV, I get some food and coffee, and then I go through a big list of URLs, one domain at a time, that I've harvested through fuzzing. And once I find something that like kind of stands out or seems interesting, and I sift it, I sort through them by return code, size of the response, and like what the actual URL was. And that's, I'm not going to talk more about what I'm looking for, but that's the kind of thing I'm looking at. And so I'll take like periods throughout the day where I just sift through those, because it's kind of like low energy, and it kind of gives me a period to relax a bit, and at the same time like be productive. I can like pretty much do it all with like one hand and not even really think too hard. And when something kind of pops into view, I can like start digging into it. So I have kind of an approach, right? And it's working, and so I can at least ride with that for a bit while I find other things to work on. As far as working on fun things, last stream I did some more development on my game Skull, which is now in a very tight spot on Linux, to the point where I want to be able to offer a demo, like a one-level demo. At a certain point, like for instance, the fuzzing's automated itself, right? Every website has a different response schema crafted for whatever endpoints it is that you're attempting to access. And if an endpoint doesn't exist, then anything can come back. You can find a website that returns like a 404 with a big old error page. You can find a website that returns like a redirect to another web page entirely. You can actually, I'm talking about the cases where the page isn't there, but like if the page is there, obviously 200s and you get your page back. But the sifting in this case involves a very minimal amount of human involvement. It's not really control over my streams, but it's good to have a conversation with someone live. That's why I'm here. I wish more people engaged with me in this manner, because it offers me kind of a feedback loop and something to respond to. Not to mention, it probably makes the stream a little bit more entertaining for people and creates a conversation for others to get involved in, because it's not just about me, it's about we and all that good stuff. I forgot what thought I was on though. So as far as fuzzing goes, right? Oh, game development. Skull is coming along nicely. It's in a good spot to the point where I want to offer a full demo that's about 3 minutes long. I still have to create a number of more enemies as well as implement a boss battle in order for that to happen. But I already have kind of a vision of the boss battle, and I'm having trouble coming up with enemies though, and that's where I'm like creatively stuck. I've overcome some technological hurdles, and so I have a really good implementation strategy down. The problem is now actually thinking of like what the next enemy is going to be. But I have a idea of how I want the mechanics to work. It's not going to be difficult to implement once I've made a decision on the actual enemy, so I might end up creating some placeholders just to kind of like fill the void until I decide like graphically what they should be. Because there is a difference between like implementing the game code and then like creating the art assets for it, and attempting to like bounce back and forth between both is kind of challenging because I'm at a point where like the code's in a really cohesive spot and I know how to put things together, and if I accidentally break things I know how to fix them. But now it's a point where I have to make real decisions on how many different enemy types should I have in this first level, how many more background assets should I have to make it artistically pleasing to look at, how many more in-game mechanics, like for instance, how many different power-up types should I have? These are real questions as a game developer and designer I'm having to face myself with in order to make progress on that project. Maybe. A friend of mine got access to a piano keyboard recently. I haven't even began to think about the music yet, but it's going to be something kind of Halloweenish. Gotta have like that gothic feel to it, you know, kind of like Castlevania, kind of like Bach. So it's getting kind of late. It's starting to get to like 10, and I've got a very long drive tomorrow. It's gonna be a fun one. By fun, I mean very long, very exhausting, but drives are easy once you get on the road. All you have to do is go forward, because thankfully it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from here all the way over to Florida. Just get on I-10 and go east. Very straightforward drive. I feel like I've been putting this off for far too long. I could have taken care of it a lot longer ago, but even getting started taking care of it required so many different things I had to do. Even today, I went out and I got a tire to replace one of my tires that had very low treads on it, so that I could feel confident I could get up on the road and drive very safely. The last thing you want to do is get up on a very long journey like that and not have all of your equipment really in check. Yeah, dude, I appreciate that. I can't really give myself any time in Florida. I'm going to literally be in the state for about 2 hours or so max. No, I'm going to be in there probably for a while because it's so long of a drive from the west part of the state to the east. But once I've actually gotten to my destination, I'm literally going to be there about a couple hours to shut down my storage unit. And so it's probably going to be like 6 hours, 12 hours. Now, just traveling through that part of Florida is going to take like a whole day, it feels like. But that's okay, because we have a plan. The plan is in motion. Everything is all going according to the plan. I mean, it's not really old nostalgia shit, I feel like, because a lot of it can be, even if it was not, some of it's nostalgia shit, some of it's actually stuff I can, get some money for. And, anything that I put like that level of value on, not to mention the fact that I've been paying for this thing. But yeah, see, there's certain things in there that will be burned probably, but definitely can't burn everything in there. I actually considered that, and there's items in there that are just out of the question for me as far as dumping and just like, moving on. I didn't spend all of this money holding that stuff for no reason, is how I'm taking my approach. Exactly, like the fact that I have enough stuff in there that I could even consider selling some of it to make some of the money back is already reason enough for me to do it, even if I have to spend a little bit of money to get out there and then get back, because not having to pay for that thing going forward and getting all of the stuff back out of it is more of a matter of principle and a personal victory in a very long and arduous inter-family, I want to almost call it a battle, but because in a way, for a while living in Florida, it felt like I was fighting for my life simply just to exist. And that's what the struggle is. That's what, that's what I think both Hitler and Lil B are talking about when they talk about the struggle. It's all about being in these really hard positions in life where you're trying to move forward, but you have something blocking you. And in many cases, no matter how hard you try to go in that direction, you just can't do it. It ends up being that sometimes it requires an external event or some sort of black swan meteor that comes out of nowhere and knocks you into a completely different universe for you to actually be able to move to the next level. Because some people are so dead set in their ways that they will not consider your way of doing things, because they have no reason to believe that you're capable of doing anything, because who are you to them but their son, just their first child. What do I know? I don't know shit. But thankfully, we're just going to bounce in and out of Florida. Not going to stay long. We're not going to see anybody. We're just going to get our things and go. We don't want to spend any more time in the past than we have to. The thing about what I'm doing is getting very close to a black hole and then getting out while I still can. Because in the end, getting into that black hole is all choice. And it's a choice that I don't have to make. I should have really chosen to be homeless every other time that I've gone to Florida in the first place, rather than try to get on my feet the way that I have been. It would be much more honorable to die on the streets than to continuously, go back to your grandmother's house where nobody respects you and you watch your mother abuse a helpless old woman while trying to play victim and shitting all over her son's life while in process. Not that I'm trying to play a victim here, but certainly there were certainly times where I would have gladly have preferred the luxury of not existing as opposed to being forced to be here, like I feel like I at times have been. But let's be positive, right? Because I am busy doing nothing, after all. This ain't shit. All the shit that I've done, compilers, fucking Japanese, fucking writing code for corporations, doing pen tests for corporations, doing code reviews for corporations. This ain't shit. Anybody can do this shit. What's really interesting and what's really cool, I feel like, is hacking and getting an RCE. Something to that effect. Learning enough about that and getting lucky enough in the process to actually make it happen in a real world situation. I think that's novel and that's interesting. And that's ultimately why I'm still here, is that we have a very beautiful, wide world ahead of us with a lot of things to be interested in. And people seem to listen to me like I have something to say, and I've certainly had students who have been willing to pay me whether or not I've been faking it. It's kind of hard to fake success. Well, I'm not sure what I said, but yeah, you're welcome, Aztec. So, long story short, John McAfee did not kill himself. he was whacked, probably by someone connected to Epstein. Probably connected to whoever whacked Epstein. I have friends who I feel like have been whacked, but I'm still here for some reason. I'm certainly here to make the world a better place and to promote truth and knowledge as opposed to deception. I don't think that you can be real with anyone without being real with yourself first. So, if he's still alive, that would be a best case scenario, certainly. I think all of us would hope that case is true, but in the end, we are going off of what is being reported. So at a certain point, there's only a level of speculation that can be done. McAfee, if you're in the great sky beyond or wherever you're at, I hope you're well. And I hope that you got there peacefully. I hope we all get to where we're going peacefully, guys. Because we're all going together. And, YOLO and all that good stuff. Peace. Till next time. This is darkmage of Evil Dojo. Taking a look at things and keeping it real.